This has been Strictly Ball Business.
Strictly Ball Business.
Strictly Ball Business.
I like that video.
Shit.
All right, welcome to Strictly Ball Business in what I believe in my stratosphere is episode 53. Who the hell wears 53? I don't know, but it's his episode, whoever it is.
I'll Google it.
Today, he's gonna Google it. Dalton's gonna find out. Today, we are gonna talk about the National Basketball Association, as we always do. But we're going to dive into who we think are going to be the top 4 teams in each conference, West and East, 5 years from now. And we'll also talk about who needs Wembanyama the most, Victor Wembanyama the most, that is. And as you can see, this is a bit talking about some up-and-coming teams looking into the future. We're also talking about a young coach who just had his first year, Willie Green and Zion Williamson. We're going to talk about who's got more pressure between those guys coming into this season. And we'll also spend some time talking about Julius Randle and should he stay or should he go. Oh, and there goes my camera. Oh my gosh. I had that propped up ever so slightly. Not perfect. I think I got that fixed. So anyways, those are our topics. So yeah, we're going to start out talking 5 years from now, a day in the age when I'm, over 30 at this point. Dalton's over 30 at this point. And we're talking about who's the top 5 or top 4 teams in the West and the top 4 teams in the East at this point. So what do you think?
Yeah, what do you want to start with? West, East?
Let's start with the East. I want to hear, I want to get the elephant out of the room with you.
Yeah. East is a little easier. You're slipping. Your camera's slipping.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
I
it's
see you
slipping.
turning. No, all right. East was a lot easier for me. So first off, I have the best team as the Celtics. They're going to be the number 1 seed. I mean, whether it's seed or not, I think they're going to be the best team in 5 years in the East. Tatum and Brown are just entering their prime, and they've already made a finals together. So this duo, I really think they're going to be together for a long time. There's no reason they shouldn't be. They gel. Obviously what they're doing works if it gets them to the finals. So it's just personnel around them is how far they'll go. But I certainly think they're going to be the best team in the East.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, calling them as the best team in the East is not a bad shot. I've got them in my top 4. I mean, not sure if they're going to be number 1 or not in 5 years, but certainly think they're going to be within that top half of the East, fighting for that 1 seed. And as long as they don't break things up here and mess that up, I think they're going to continue to grow. My only thing is if they don't get a championship before that 5 years is up, they probably make some moves here. And do we know if they're better from those moves? That's my big question.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of older guys. Marcus Smart will be well out of his prime by then. Horford's probably not going to be in the NBA. I mean, Robert Williams he could very well still be around. I mean, he's just drafted a couple years ago, so he's part of that young core as well that we keep forgetting. So there's certainly a lot of ways. I mean, they still have all their picks too, which is miraculous that they made it to the finals and they gave away no picks. They gave away 2 seconds for Fournier, which was a rental, but who cares? Magic aren't going to do anything with those. But no, yeah, so they're pretty great. I didn't foresee any trades or when they're going to break up or anything. I just kind of took the young core and how elevated they would be in 5 years. But my next team, I think, is the second best team, the newly gathered Cavaliers. I have high expectations for them this season. Just get Darius Garland, or Coral kind of, but more Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell together, both all-stars, both on this team. That's going to be great. And we haven't even seen Mobley enter his prime, not even close to his prime. And that's what puts them into the second best team for me.
Yeah, I have the Cavs in my top 4 as well. I think as long as that core stays together of Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Darius Garland, and hopefully you got the other guys around him too, but mainly those 3 guys, if they're continuing to excel, I see no reason why they wouldn't be top 4 in the East.
Yeah, I mean, the culture they've built just since LeBron left aside from a few rough patches with just Kevin Love, but everything it seems to be very positive. I mean, all the young guys look like they're having fun. They don't hear any complaining from their side. I mean, you get Jared Allen. All the guys get along. So I'm certainly with it.
Yeah, I think, they've certainly bought into the culture there, and they're building a great squad. And as long as they have a winning season this year, I think like they're only going to continue to be happier. 5 years is just like a really long ways away. So it's like hard to predict, how it'll all end up.
True.
Is Jared Allen still there in 5 years? I don't really see that.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think Mobley will be moved to center by then. I think he'll be the main center, and
they'll go something else eventually. Get rid of Allen when he starts deteriorating at some point, because big men simply they start to have injury problems later in their career, and they're getting Jared Allen for some great years, and right now he's a fantastic player, and for his value makes a ton of sense. But that wall can come fast, and we've seen it happen with big men before, where they start getting injured or they just fall off in terms of having that extra bounce to get as many rebounds and to bang in the paint every night. So we'll see the longevity on that. But I certainly have high hopes overall in the team.
Yeah, for Allen's sake, I don't think he's going to leave the team due to injury. I think it's going to be once they start seeing him infringe on what Mobley can extend. They're going to be like, all right, it's time for Mobley to take up the center. He's figured it out. I think it'll be more a development thing. He's kind of like a placeholder till Mobley can figure it out completely defensively, which as a big man, we've seen Mo Bamba have all the tools and he just couldn't get it. You have to be a smart player to play defensively, and Jared Allen does, but Mobley obviously has the tools to be better. So who do you have for your third team? Who's the next best?
So I had the Celtics and Cavs in my top four. I have the Bucks here as well. I do think, Giannis is still going to be there. Hopefully that's kind of what I'm making this bet on. And you put anyone around him, I think you're going to have a top 4 team.
Yeah. They
got obviously aging vets, but I think they're going to be able to reshuffle.
That's a good point. I didn't put him in there. I'd put him as an honorable mention just because of the uncertainty of everyone but Giannis. It's fair to say Giannis alone will make him a top 4 seed. That's fair. It's just I was so uncertain if Middleton would even be on this team, or if his decline would start. Drew Holiday, I don't think will be on the team in 5 years. I don't think he'll be in the NBA in 5 years. Brooke Lopez is gone. The only guy is Portis and Grayson Allen, and that doesn't convince. That's not enough roster talent for me to say definitively that they'll be a top 4. Giannis alone, though, makes them certainly in the conversation.
I trust the Bucks to be able to put a solid team around Giannis at that point. They're going to have money freed up from, either one of those guys or both if Holiday and Middleton do leave eventually. And while they're great players, I think you can find some solid guys around Giannis. Not enough to win you a championship in that quick of a reshuffle, but I think to get a top 4 seed, I trust Giannis enough at that point. He'll be well into his prime. He might even be better than he is today.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, hopefully he's won a couple MVPs by then, but my third team I had was the Hawks. I fully trust Trae Young. I mean, whether John Collins is on there or not, I don't know if he'll be there in 5 years, but DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, that's enough offense, creation that I'm just so excited to see. John Collins is great. I just said that, but they have a bunch of guys. I really like, oh no, I'm forgetting his name. Oh no.
What, Hunter?
DeAndre Hunter. I really like him, and he's nobody talks about him as much. He's a sneaky 17, 18 point per game scorer that can play great defense. So that core alone really puts it over for me. One of the best two-way cores minus Trae Young. Yeah,
no, that's a fair pick. I think, that's kind of the more wild one that you have, hoping that they continue to accelerate. And of course, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals only a couple years ago. So it's not that inconceivable. But I actually have the Toronto Raptors in this spot because I just trust their front office and their coaching more. And I think Scotty Barnes is going to end up being a superstar in this league. And they've got other great players around them too, like Fred VanVleet, hopefully still playing at that point. He'll, be on his last leg, but I think he'll still be okay maybe. If not, I think that they'll find somebody in the draft, hopefully, And I think Gary Trent Jr. has some good promise. And, I just have full faith in that front office to put a great team around Scotty.
Yeah, I'm just so uncertain who their guard would have been, but Scotty, Siakam, OG, all those guys, great young core. They're gonna be great in 5 years. They didn't make my top 5, but just because it's really only those 3 around them, they're still so uncertain at the center. They're still so uncertain at point guard, even though they have Van Fleet. They just don't really have that elite playmaker. Sure, could be Scotty, and that's all you need. But I just we'll get there. I mean, they're certainly there. I wasn't totally convinced Siakam. I can't believe he'll still be there in 5 years. Him or OG. I think one of those guys are gone. Like
I think period. I agree with that, but I also see them getting reputable value in return. And Toronto in the past has made smart draft picks, so I trust them to make good picks with what they get in return.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're a great 4. Like they were my 5 on the list. I just didn't include them in my top 4. But my top 4, my 4th, is the Orlando Magic.
Oh no!
You know it. I really think they're gonna be something. I think they have so much young talent, and I think Paolo is gonna be a great talent in this league. I certainly think he's gonna be a superstar, and he has minimum at least 2 other all-star caliber type players next to him. Where Wendell Carter, who I think this next season we're about to see an all-star type season. He probably won't make an all-star game, but he'll have all the numbers to justify it. And Wagner, I have no doubt, will get there, put up those Tobias Harris type numbers with better defense. So if you already have guys like that, and Cole Anthony is going to be a 6th man of the year candidate once he hits his prime, just like J-Cap. And I mean, I like Markelle Fultz. I don't think Markelle Fultz, Isaac, or any of those other guys will still be on the team. Bamba definitely won't be, but if they are, I think that's still part of it. I mean, all those guys, their whole roster is part of their young core, 25 and under. So I really think they can get to that 4th. They have nothing but potential. We just got to see some of this talent show through the season.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think they certainly have lots of potential, and in 5 years, that would make sense for them to be competing by that point, because if they're not by then, they're probably trading some of the guys away because they were busts.
and they're rebuilding again.
And they're rebuilding again. Yeah. So, yeah, if they're not in the playoffs in 5 years, they're rebuilding again. So, for your sake, I hope you were right.
Yeah, me too.
But you know what, man? Let's move on. Let's move on from the East. I feel like, we talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
We got the West, and everybody knows the West is best. Sure, they don't have Orlando and Paolo, but they do have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I believe will be in the top 4 of the West in 5 years. And honestly, every year before then as well. Okay. Every next 5 years, a year till 5 years from now, we will be top 4, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I say we because I feel like I'm a Minnesota. Just kidding.
I am a Timberwolf. I am the 6th man of the fans.
I do think their core is set up for longevity. Sure, at that point, I don't know if you've got both Gobert and Towns at that point, but you've seen A-Rod and Laurie are ready to be aggressive, and they want to stay contenders long term. And I think as long as you've got Anthony Edwards there, you've got a young guy like Jaden McDaniels growing as well. I think it makes sense that team is going to be competing as long as you're able to keep Anthony Edwards around.
Yeah, I mean, they almost made my top 4. I was looking for excuses to put them in my top 4. I couldn't get, but they were 5. They were beat out by a couple teams, but Gobert will be toast in 5 years. I don't think
he won't be toast.
In 5 years, he'll be like 35. He's like 30
He will not
right
be
now.
35.
He's pretty old, but no, I don't think he's nearly going to be the effective center he is today. And I have full confidence in what he's going to do for the Timberwolves. I think they'll be top 4 seed for the next 3 years, but next 5, I don't know. Cat, not convinced he'll be in Minnesota.
He'll be 35. You're right.
Yeah. But Anthony Edwards, I do like him alone. I think he's gonna turn into an MVP type candidate, and I think that should have almost pushed it over. I just needed to see a little more young talent, a little more confidence in what Jaden McDaniels would be, or Any other the guys, D'Lo won't be there. So like, I just need a little more young core for me to justify it. But
No, that's fair. I think
get it.
like they're obviously gunning for a championship within the next 3 years, which is a bold, like mission for a team that has only made the playoffs like 2 times in the last 2 decades, really. Or I guess like really, if you count those later years of that, maybe like 5 out of 20. But regardless, it's a very ambitious goal to be gunning for the championship like that. We haven't even won a series recently. Could argue they should have won. The Grizzlies won this recent time, but they still didn't win it. So I think it's an interesting shot to take. But if you're gonna take a swing on anybody, I think Rudy Gobert's a great one to do it on.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, we talked about the trade lots when it happened, but I'm curious, who do you have in your top 4? I didn't have the Wolves as number 1, just so we're clear.
Okay, so my first was Miles. The other 3 I can see in exchange all over, but the best team I'll see in the West, I think will be the Grizzlies. I think they'll be the best team in the West in 5 years. Ja Morant is right now he's the second most dominant point guard in the NBA. Not counting Luka, I count him as a 2 guard, but he's now Luka's probably the point guard, I guess. But he's so great, and Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. haven't even entered their prime yet. I think we're going to see a lot more of these Grizzlies. I think we're going to see them in series. I really hope the rivalry starts between Edwards and Ja. That would be the most entertaining thing ever, but we'll see. But I certainly have them as my first.
Yeah, I kept them out of my top 4.
What?
I think they're a great young squad, and there's a certain potential they could be phenomenal. But I don't know if Ja Morant is going to be healthy in 5 years. I mean, his game is very similar to Derrick Rose, who had knee injuries, by that point where Ja Morant will be at in his career. And I'm certainly not wishing for that. But he plays hard, and he's already had some ankle injuries because he just comes down awkwardly sometimes.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. I still just think alone, like him without, it was the point of he wasn't even in the game and they were still winning. So that's a huge part for me too. But
yeah, the team's well built for sure.
Well built. The second best team I think will be the Pelicans. Granted, Valanciunas will be gone, and McCollum will probably not be there, but Zion and Ingram are a great duo to have. You get Herb Jones, you got young guys like Jackson Hayes, and Trey Murphy III. I think they have a lot of young talent. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the NBA in 5 years. Certainly, if Zion can stay healthy. Obviously, that's the caveat here, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Zion's health is the biggest contingency. It always is. I have them in my top 4 as well because I'm willing to bet that Zion and Brandon Ingram are going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. I think CJ McCollum does have a good chance of still be on this team in 5 years. But if he's not, I don't think they'll have any problem getting some solid point guard in because we're assuming Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson are great players. And who wouldn't want to play with those guys at that point in their careers in New Orleans?
Yeah. I mean, they had a tough time pairing people with Anthony Davis. So
that's true. But that's all they had was Anthony Davis. And very rarely does somebody join the big man because, he hadn't done anything really for somebody to want to come join him to think like Anthony Davis was an alpha. The Pelicans just made the playoffs without Zion Williamson, and Zion Williamson is amazing when we have seen him played. So if he ascends, I think people are gonna want to play with him. Ideally.
Oh yeah, and
New Orleans is a nice place too.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, he's a pretty chill guy. He's cool. He's not one of those alpha personalities. If anything, it'd be Brandon Ingram, who's more of a personality. But I haven't heard anything bad from him. So
yeah, Bi is pretty quiet, and Zion seems like he's just a happy guy who wants to play some basketball. So I'm excited to see him get out there again, and hopefully 5 years from now we're talking about a multiple all-star.
Yeah. No, definitely. One guy, I have the Mavericks in here just because of Luka. Luka alone, I think he'll be a top 4. I mean, we've seen the Mavericks have proof of concept that you can just put shooters around Luka and he'll bring you to the playoffs. Like who's their second best star? Spencer Dinwiddie, and they made it to the conference finals this year.
Yeah,
I have enough confidence in Luka where he'll be a top 4 seed in 5 years.
Yep, I have the Mavericks in my top 4 as well. I think like Luka Doncic might very well be the best player in the NBA at this point, and it won't be much of a debate. I mean, he's already so amazing, and
Giannis.
I think the Mavericks are going to get more opportunities to add solid players to their team. They swing and miss about every year, but I mean, now they have Luka, and like a number 2 option, it should be excited to go play with a guy like that.
Yeah.
And who knows what guys out there, but I can see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Wood said he's going to make a All-Star team this year. He just he said that because Derrick Rose said it'll take him 3 years to make an All-Star team, and he's like, I'm gonna do it this year, which it's very possible. If the Mavericks do really well, they can justify 2 All-Stars, and I don't see Dinwiddie getting it over Wood. I think Wood is better than Dinwiddie.
Maybe, but
better score.
I mean, they were talking about having Christian Wood come off the bench, and he's not making an All-Star game if he's coming off the bench.
I don't think he's gonna come off the bench. I think they'll have rotations where he isn't always on the floor, but from what he said and other comments, I've heard say it seems like he's the starter. I don't know why they would have. I mean, because he shoots just as well as Maxi Kleber, and I don't know why he would start over Kleber.
I totally agree, but Jason Kidd literally said the words like Christian Wood wasn't gonna start. Like he said those words like even like 2 months ago. It seemed like really weird to say it that far out in advance. So maybe he just was throwing shit at a wall and didn't really mean it. But still kind of a weird thing to say. Could
have been one of those things where he's like, where coaches do it all the time, where they're like, where they don't guarantee spots. Where they're like, I don't care how good you are, you have to earn a starting position. Jason Kidd is a very hard-nosed type guy like that. So I would expect something like that. He could be just telling the truth that he's not gonna, that he's coming off the bench, or it could have been like, earn your position. You're just because you could have been that.
Yeah, very well could be.
Who's your 4th team?
The Denver Nuggets are my 4th team. I do believe Nikola Jokic will still be a great player at this point. Betting on Jamal Murray or whatever star they bring in to play next to Jokic is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And hopefully Michael Porter Jr. is great as well. So I'm hopeful for this team, but regardless, like, they have Jokic, who's one of the best players in the entire league.
Yeah, I'm back-to-back MVP. They barely missed, too. I just was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, Jokic alone should be able to do it, but this other team, I just feel like they have a higher ceiling for 5 years, so I think I lean towards them. But all the injuries, that's a huge if for me, is Michael, MPJ, Murray. Can they just be healthy? Both of them have been gone for so long. I don't know what Denver basketball looks like anymore, or what it's gonna look like. Rather, what it looks like now is good. I don't know if they might actually hurt the system they have, because now Jokic just gets to run the entire offense. No, like think about it.
Hurt the system. Michael Porter Jr. doesn't need many touches.
No, it's Jamal Murray.
He catch and shoot threes, but Jamal Murray can also get hot too, and you need a second guy who can handle the ball really well. So I think those guys, bring them in. That's my pick for the number 1 seed. If they get all healthy and they figure it out, like, that team's gonna be fantastic. I mean, they could be the number 1 seed this year. Yeah,
I mean, it's just that was too big of an if for me to go off of. Is because of their injury history. Both the top 2.
Risk, baby.
But one guy that I guess that's a little what's hypocritical of me, because my 4th pick was OKC, and that's based fully off Chet, who's already missing his first year. No, and SGA, I really like SGA, one of my most underrated players in the NBA, if not the most underrated. He's wonderful, he's great, does everything. Defense, playmake, shoots, he's got it all. Probably I want to see more volume from shooting, but you got Lou Dort, you got Giddey, you got some nice young guys, Baisley's whatever, but I'm super excited. Everyone likes Poku. I don't think he's gonna be much, but he's out there. But they already have 2. I think they'll have 2 superstars by then, and Chet, and then 2 guys who any team would love to have in Dort and Giddey. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be doing well for a while.
Yeah, no, it's a great team, bunch of young talent. I just have a hard time seeing what's going to come through there. I think Giddey certainly looks like he's going to be a solid player, but still pretty raw. Chet, I'd like to think he's going to be an all-star in this league, but he couldn't even handle a drive from LeBron. So that is a huge question mark for me. Even though, I love him. He's from the hometown. So, sucks to see. But yeah, OKC just doesn't really have enough for me. And like Shea, I love, obviously, but I'm not confident he's going to be there in 5 years, let alone 3. I mean, I think Shea is like secretly on the trade block.
I think that's where the narrative is trying to go, is put him on the trade block. I mean, that's the Knicks tried to start that role. Like they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get SGA next, because that they're just constantly saying they're gonna get the next person.
The next guard, yeah.
Really don't. I think he's completely. I've heard nothing but content from him. Like he's fine. He's like, oh yeah, I like OKC. He's just like Jeremy Grant. Remember that we were talking about? He's like, I'm the number one option. I get to score as much as I want. Why would I want to leave? So I think it's much like that. But he's like, obviously younger than Jeremy Grant, so he's like, no, I'm gonna grow and develop with these guys. I think he's by far the leader on that team, and I think he likes his role there. I don't think he's gonna ask to leave unless they are attempting to win and can't win. But I think that's still like 3-4 years down the road.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see how good he can get. I think Shea can get as good as like Bradley Beal is right now. I think, maybe like a Jaylen Brown, but he's not as good as defense. He can bulk up a little bit more, but I mean, he's not a terrible defender either. And he's a great shooter, so I think like that's going to age very well for him. Yeah,
I think he's that's a good comparison. Is Jaylen Brown less on defense, more on playmaking?
Yeah, because
that's how I see it.
Because he's fast. He's got good control of his offense like Jaylen does.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if he's happy in OKC, I'm happy for him. He makes a ton of money, so hard not to be happy.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you're living. So, hopefully OKC sticks it together. I'd love to see this rebuild all out and, see them have a really good squad here.
Oh yeah, for sure. But what do you guys think? Who in 5 years? Who's gonna be the top teams in the West? You let us know. Comment below. But speaking of all these young teams and rebuilding and stuff, one of the top two within the top 2 prospects next year's draft is Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama. One of these teams, they're not tanking for him, but they're hoping to get him. We got all these teams in the bottom. Which do you think need him more? And what is the likelihood they'll get him?
Yeah. Well, I think some teams are tanking for him. And I think one team in particular is trying to go round 2 electric boogaloo for the number 1 pick and getting a star big man, just like they did with David Robinson back in the day. I think the San Antonio Spurs would love to get Victor Wembanyama. I mean, they don't have an identifying piece to their young core that they're building since they traded away DeJounte Murray. They just have a crap ton of picks, and maybe Keldon Johnson's going to be something. Maybe Joshua Primo's going to be a star, but God, we don't know. But I'll tell you what we do know. Victor Wembanyama is going to be a star.
Yeah. I mean, so like, you're right. I mean, they need a star. They might need him the most. That's a great pick. I mean, I really like Devin Vassell. Keldon Johnson's nice. Josh Primo, we have no idea what he's going to be. But Victor Wembanyama will certainly raise their ceiling. If he's the star, that's who they want to get. Tank for it. Good for you, Spurs. You deserve a guy like that. I didn't think of that much. You see, but they definitely might need it. I mean, we have no idea what this team looks like next year because they're kind of like let everyone go, stripped them. McDermott's got to be on the trade block too, and he's on that team. He can help out a lot of teams. So
I don't think about him much when I think about the Spurs core. That's just a rotational piece.
Yeah. And Lonnie Walker's gone too. They got rid of a lot of young guys, so that
was a first round pick for them. When they did pick him, so obviously he's a bust in terms of what they got back on that.
What are you talking about? He went to the Lakers. There's no busts on the Lakers. No,
I mean,
yeah.
the Spurs realized they had like multiple. I'll let you get to your point. But they had multiple years of picking in like the 7 to 14 range, and it just wasn't giving them anything. It's like barely missing the playoffs, and you're getting. And they did get DeJounte Murray at one of those picks, so I guess that was great. And they got to turn it into some more picks now, but like they were just getting a lot of like the same type of player, and like their makeup of their team made no sense for years.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2017 was when they drafted DeJounte Murray, and he was he was a pretty, I think he was
Which
the
is crazy
sixth pick.
because like doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No, does not feel like it's been 6
That's
years.
a long time ago, to be fair.
No, yeah, it is. But certainly they might need him the most. You're right. The team I had were the Rockets. I think the Pistons already have a superstar and guys to help out him. They've got a lot of young guys. Magic, I think we just talked about, have tons of young core. OKC, I think they're set with Chet. Sure, Chet's a forward, but I think they're going to be good for a while. I don't think they need him the most. Rockets, granted, they have Jalen Green, but who else? I know Şengün's nice. Porter Jr., we'll see what happens with Porter Jr. Who did they just get to? Jabari Smith Jr. We just don't know what he looks like. Nobody's convinced, where we've seen enough from Chet and Banchero where we're like, oh yeah, we can justify why they got picked. I haven't seen anything to impress me from Jabari yet. Not saying he won't. I'm just saying it seems all they have is Jalen Green. And when was the last time they had a dominant big man? Yao Ming, Shaq, Dwight. I mean, not Shaq,
Yeah.
Dwight. Dwight.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Rockets
Dwight
really need a
had
big
like,
man.
yeah, Dwight didn't have like as amazing years there, but he still was pretty solid. But before that, obviously Yao Ming. I think getting a great big man here would make sense. Wembanyama would make a ton of sense with the team. They do have a lot of high draft picks they've already used. You know, I'd love to see Jabari Smith and Jalen Green turn into stars. Like, I think they both have that potential. But to get a championship in this league, you need like multiple guys who have that type of talent. Otherwise, you ain't even gonna sniff it.
Yeah, and you need an MVP type player. I don't know if that's Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green will be a superstar. I don't know if he can be an MVP type player to win that championship. And
I think he's gonna be like their Devin Booker if he ends up reaching his full potential.
yeah, and that's great, and that's a perfect example because Devin Booker has done everything they can. They've done everything. They just haven't had a star to match up with Giannis or Luka or any of those guys. So like, star power really matters. So if they can pick up a star, I mean, then just Hakeem Olajuwon flashbacks constantly with Victor. So I think that's what they would go for. That would be the narrative. So that's why I thought they would need it the most. But you probably changed my mind. I don't know why I didn't think of the Spurs. I keep forgetting. About that.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs, I think they're actively trying to get the guy. I mean, they were like, you know what? You're right. Let's just trade DeJounte this year, wrap it up. Let's try to get him.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it works out for them. It'd suck if they ended up just getting something else or nothing from it, or like just getting whatever. I don't know what the draft pool looks like yet. So like, just like this year, it was top 3 was a solid pick, and then at 4 was the fall off point of talent. Just like Zion's draft, etc. I don't know where the fall off point will be for them. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I think everybody's talking about Victor, not a whole lot about anyone else. I think there's maybe one other guy I've heard about, but I can't remember. But I mean, Wembanyama is obviously the biggest name. I had the Pistons as a possible team to want to get him, but anybody's gonna want this guy. I think you get the number 1 pick. You're snatching him up regardless if you have a starting center already.
Yeah, I think any team that gets him would want him. I don't know if I think the Rockets would need him more than the Pistons or OKC or the Magic. I don't think the Magic would need it. They're the least of need because they already have what will be an all-star caliber center currently. But what do you guys think? What team do you think needs Victor the most? Comment below. Let us know. All right, so next, the Pelicans. We touched on them earlier. We talked about how they're one of our favorite young teams. We think they're going to be great. But this year, not that there's a massive amount of pressure on them, but these guys got to be good. They've made all these trades. The front office has done it all. Who has more pressure on them? Is it Zion or is it Willie Green?
I think it's Willie Green. I think. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I think it's Zion. I don't think Willie Green has the pressure. I don't know why I came out so strong like that. Zion has more pressure because he's the one that has only played in like at most 65 games in a season. He missed all of last season, and he's the player ultimately. Willie Green helped his team get to the playoffs last year. Without Zion, and people are giving him a ton of credit because it was his first year. He's young, and I mean, it was really impressive. They had a really great series with the Suns too, so it was like hard not to be impressed.
No, yeah.
Zion's got the pressure because if he gets injured again, I mean, he's gonna get clowned. If he has a bad season, he's gonna get clowned even worse. But I don't really foresee that happening. I mean, I think he's going to have a fantastic season personally. I think he's going to come back strong. He's been clearly working out hard in the offseason. Looks like he's cut down on weight. So I'm looking forward to a great season this year. I think he's only going to take the pressure in stride. And I think he's going to, help it push him to more success.
No, yeah, 100% agree. Just in case you were looking for the stats, Zion has missed he's only played 36% of the games in the last 3 years. 24 games his rookie season, 61 games the second season. Obviously didn't play last season. This guy's got to play. He's got to get in there. I mean, the front office it's arguable. I mean, the Nets probably did more, but what front office has done? This is probably the best the Pelicans front office has ever done to fit around a star. Valanciunas, all-star caliber type player. You can expect 15 to 20 points a game out of him. They get CJ McCollum, who's one of the Cinderella stories that never going to become an all-star, but always has all-star numbers. They get guys like Devontae Graham, who's one of the best six-man. They get Larry Nance, who's wonderful. I mean, they find steals like Herb Jones and Alvarado. They've done such a great job to build around Zion. For a guy who has barely played for them, they've built a team around him.
Yeah, so, they've been building around the guy who's been hurt. It's so like, it's. I've just not seen something like it. Like sure, Joel Embiid, when he got hurt, they were still drafting players, but it didn't feel like they were building around Joel Embiid. I mean, they drafted Jahlil Okafor and Nerlens Noel as well. So, hard to say they were building there, but clearly with the Pelicans, like, every move is to make sure it makes sense with Zion on the team.
Exactly. And like there's all that tension, like what was that at the beginning of last season where they're like, oh, does Zion want to leave? And they're like, no, we'll do everything for Zion.
Anything possible.
So like this
Hire
guy,
family members.
Yep.
Have a buffet in the locker room.
Buffet. They even tried to trade for RJ and Cam just to make him happy. So like it's out there. They've done their job. That's it. Like they're like, we've done ours. Zion, go do it. And it's not even just to stay healthy. Like I'll throw it back to the Celtics 2-3 years ago when they had this so much talent, and they're like, all right, Kyrie, we put all these guys, all these young guys who developed, all of them are good, and he didn't help the team when he came back. They were worse with him.
Yeah.
So so that's a huge. I'm not saying Zion will make them worse. I'm just saying he's got to make it work. He's got to make the team work. He's got to fit in the team they built. Granted, the team is made to fit around him, but he's got to cooperate. He's got to get in there. I'm not saying he won't, not saying he's a huge personality or anything, but it's harder than it seems to jump into a team that's already had success.
No, I feel that, but I think that's also part of the reason why you didn't bring him in last season at the end of the year, and you didn't bring him in during the playoffs, because it would have felt weird. There was potential for him to get hurt. You might as well wait the offseason. Now you come into this year, it's like you got a fresh squad. You start over again. Everybody loves Zion. They want to play around him. And I think he doesn't really need the ball in his hands to be dominant, because you can pass it to him as he's driving to the rock. He can get rebounds. Like, he's a force himself, and he'll find his opportunity.
All right. I mean, 61% from the field his last season he played. That's insane. Off 27 a game at 61%. Like, the talent's there. We know he's good. We've seen it. We know he's there. Just whether he can stay on the court and whether he can fit into the team he's had. Like, very clearly, I think CJ McCollum's the leader on the court. He's just the vet. He's definitely experienced the most. Valanciunas is there, but like obviously Brandon Ingram and Zion are going to follow after him. And I can't think of like a better leader for this team. I mean, maybe Chris Paul, but like you can't say you can't just expect Chris Paul every time you have a young core, you know. So Chris Paul, CJ McCollum's great, president of the Player Association now. So
yeah, I think CJ McCollum's added a ton to this team, and I'm excited to see what they do this upcoming year. I think it's a possibility they could even finish top 4 this season. You know, we talked about them earlier, finishing top 4 in 5 years, but the Pelicans have the talent to do it now, if everything clicks.
Yeah, I think they certainly have the talent. I don't think they will. They can. It's in their ceiling to do that well. I think it's going to take a while to mesh. I don't think they're going to come out and do really well right away. I think they're going to be one of those teams just like the Celtics were this year, where they're going to struggle. They got to get a system under them, and then once they figure it out, they figured it out, and they're going to take off. I think they're going to make more noise in the playoffs this year than they will in the regular season.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think we'll see what happens in the end. Really excited to hopefully see Zion be healthy. So lots of pressure on him, but we're excited. Let's get to our last topic, huh? Got one more for the show. Episode 53.
Episode 53.
business.
The Mark Eaton episode.
The Mark Eaton episode. Who'd Mark Eaton play for? Lakers?
Jazz.
Yes. Mark Eaton, this one's for you. We're going into our last topic. We're talking about Julius Randle. Should he stay or should he go now? Oh, no. Do you think Julius Randle should get traded ASAP?
So,
ASAP, Rocky?
I think it's a little more I think if it wasn't the Knicks, I tried not to think of like this is the Knicks. I tried to be like, all right, let's just think of the team they have. So like, what do the Knicks have, right? Well, first, what's the first question is, what do you get from Julius? Tell me, what do we get out of Julius? What are the big pluses? Like if you're trading for Julius, what are you hoping to get? Like, what is the player you want to get back? Secondary playmaker, shooting, floor spacing. Anything else? That's
If I'm trading away Julius, what I'm trying to get back in return?
If like you're a team and you're trying to trade for Julius, what are his biggest pluses? Secondary playmaker, shooting, and floor spacing. Scoring, really. So like scoring and playmaking. Like you don't get much defense. He can fit into a defense fine, which is what we've seen. But so if that's what you need us to fit. You need him to fit into something better. And like if we're talking about whether he should have stayed or would he go, what's going to accent the way he does it? Like he works better with defense-minded bigs. Do the Knicks have that? I mean, they have Brunson and RJ. Both guys are great. Both struggle shooting, not high volume. They're going to clog up the paint. I mean, granted, Brunson's miles better. Like he's a good playmaker, and that's what Julius can't be the primary playmaker as he was last year, and RJ can't do it. It's shown. But they're not the greatest shooters. Robinson, one of the, if on paper, perfect archetype next to Julius Randle. Doesn't need to shoot, just protect the paint, do a great job. But he can't stay on the floor. He can't do anything. Not the perfect fit, but it's also not the worst situation in the world. I think he could do better elsewhere. I think there's better teams that would rather have him. Before you jump in, I'll go over his contract. He's got 4 years on his contract. 4th year is the player option. He'll be 32 when he enters unrestricted free agency. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Julius Randle certainly has still some value. So, if I'm a team trying to get him, I'm excited about his grit. I'm excited about his post playmaking abilities, and I'm excited to see a bounce back season from him. I'm a little worried, if he continues to play for the Knicks, is he going to get better? Is he just going to continue to get worse? Because he's at an age, he should still be getting better. At least I would hope he hasn't reached his peak yet. But if he gives us another season like he did last year, then we're going to assume that his peak was 2 years ago in that fluke season.
Yeah, that one season. Yeah. I do think it's not helping him any. I don't think he should be the veteran on the team. I don't think he's the leader type. I think
that's a lot of pressure on him for sure.
It's a lot of pressure, and I do think a trade would be the best. I do have a trade when we're done discussing him, but I think there's certainly a lot of situations that would fit him better, and I think the Knicks would be better suited to trade him away. I mean, they got him because they couldn't get anyone else. Remember, I'm not saying anything against him. They were trying to get Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and they couldn't, and they had all that cap space. So like, we'll sign Julius Randle. They're like, okay, come on, man, we'll give you money.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and then it worked out. Like they were excited to see a great first year from him. They're like, oh damn, maybe it was actually worth it, and then some. But it's hard to play in New York. It's hard to be a leader in New York. You're constantly having people bark at you. He probably feels like he can't go outside some days. So we don't know the personal side of it for him, how much impacted he is by the ancestral fans that is New York Knicks fandom. So I can only assume he's had to deal with some shit though. But I think I'd love to see him on another team like the Sacramento Kings. I think would be great. I think LA Clippers would be great. I think Portland Trailblazers would be great. So well, actually now they have Jeremy Grant, so not so much. But maybe someone else. Send him out west. The Wolves will take him. He can come off the bench.
Yeah. Here, I got a trade for you. I actually really like this trade. I think it works well for both sides. I mean, and certainly this is based off seeing some of the return we've got. He's not even an all-star, so it's the Knicks are trading with the Heat. So he's going to go with the Heat. He gets everything he needs on that team with a defensive big. He's got shooters. He's the secondary playmaker. So it's just Julius Randle going to the Heat, and they're getting back Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, 2 first-round picks. One of them's top 10 protect.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a pretty big trade package for Julius Randle. I'd say if you're the Knicks, you'd take it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, the Heat, you lose 2 first rounds and a guy that you thought was going to work out, and maybe Duncan Robinson needs to go somewhere else. But the Knicks' perspective, they get 2 picks. Oladipo's kind of we'll see if he shows up or not, which is fine. You always get some of those in these trades. But Duncan Robinson, like we were just talking about, is they have trouble with shooting. They need a shooter next to RJ, and they need one next to Brunson, and he certainly brings that. This guy can shoot from the parking lot, as Stephen A. says. So this guy, I think he can help out the Knicks more than he can help out the Heat right now. And Julius Randle adds so much more star power to the Heat, and I think that would make them instant contender. I mean, they're already contenders, but it's hard to play. How do you play against that team? That Heat team with the starting lineup of like Lowry. I mean, probably not starting lineup, but Lowry, Hero, Butler, Julius Randle, and Bam. That's tough.
Yeah. And I think, it would make sense. I think the coaching could get something out of him, and I think really, really make him the best version of who he can be. And a good Julius Randle is a damn good player. So I'd love to see a coaching staff pull it out of him. We've seen Tom Thibodeau run players down. It's very possible Julius Randle just doesn't love playing for Tom Thibodeau. He's now in like his almost 10th season in the NBA, if you can believe it. Julius Randle, I think he's in like his 7th or 8th season. Pretty crazy, but he probably maybe doesn't love playing for the dog.
Yeah, I mean, if Thibodeau can pull one good defensive year out of Julius Randle, I'm confident Eric Spoelstra could definitely pull seasons out of this guy.
Yeah.
Like they have a great culture, and I do think Julius Randle's culture fits well in Miami. So I think I can see him next to all those guys. Kyle, I can see him next to Jimmy. It'd work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Heat are always a great team, and they seem to just pull out talent out of nowhere. And I feel like they could turn Julius Randle into a borderline star.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's already a star. He had a down year, but I mean, I guess he was a star.
If he can get back to his season from 2 years ago, I mean, he's a star. But for me, a star is somebody who does it consistently and doesn't need that pushing. But you know what? Some systems create stars too. So
true. So that'd be great for him. What do you guys think? Do you think he should stay? You think he should go? How much do you hate me, Knicks fans? Tell me. Please comment below. Let me know.
Yes. That was Strictly Ball Business. Subscribe if you had a good time with us. We'll be back next week for episode 54. 2K will be out by then. It was it come out in like 2 days now?
Tomorrow night.
Is it tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got pre-orders, so
For us.
downloading.
For them, it would be like 3 days ago. 4 days ago. when they watch this.
What do you mean? Oh, okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, great. Thank you for tuning in. If you are here this long, we'll see you next time, I hope.
Yeah, if you're here this long, comment peaches. Comment the word peaches below. I just want to know. Nobody's going to do it. But if you do it, we'll shout you out on our next video. We'll say, hey, man.
We'll send
this
you
guy
a free
said peaches.
t-shirt.
Yeah, for real.
A Strictly Ball Business t-shirt if you've listened to this point.
Just some hairy gonads on it but the balls are basketballs. That's our crew.
With pubes on it. Oh,
Yep.
God.
Oh God, don't
Amazing.
picture that.
Incredible.
Incredible.
I can do the graphic design. Any idea you want, superb or not, is capable.
Anything's capable. Whatever you want.
Capable.
See, if that's not incentive.
Basketball's done.
If that's not incentive, I don't know what it is. Comment below. All right. Out.
Strictly Ball Business, where we strictly talk basketball. Tune in next time